we got a couple guys on here that aren't Life.Church. Where are you guys from? What do you do? I can introduce a couple of these guys. We got Joe Lack. He's from Elevation Church. And we got Ron Bacorn, who we've been talking to. He's with Ross. He's a genius who came in and set up all of our Furio systems.
Yeah, I'm excited for all the emails you guys sent the last day or so. All the different things you got coming up.
Yeah. Should be cool.
Oh, nice. Guys from Life.Church. Ashton Frazier. Welcome, sir. We'll give it like another minute or two. And then depending on how many other people show up, we might just be asking ourselves some questions, and that's totally great. Because I want to know what Joe's been up to in all of this time.
How'd y'all's call go on Tuesday?
It was great. We had a lot of fun doing it. We kind of focused on just kind of keying in general, video switcher keying, and specifically the Carbonite, since that's what we use, and anyone smart uses.
You hear that, Greg?
Hey, we're partially there.
I really just said that for Ron to like all of a sudden email me like special access to stuff. That's really what.
Yeah.
I mean, we're 33 out of 34. I don't know what that percentage is, but it's strong.
Hey, if you're a baseball player, you're the best to ever. So there you go.
That's right.
But now it's great. We've been trying to keep our volunteers engaged as much as possible since we connect with them so much on the weekend through Slack and things like that. So the last 3-4 weeks, we've been doing a kind of a multi-viewer stream of a back shot of our Valentine broadcast video control, and then a program feed, a couple multi-viewers, and then comm in front of house in it, just to give people a way to kind of get into the zone of a production weekend, so to speak. So we get 50 or 60 of our volunteers to tune into that each week, and we're kind of going in the chat. And so the Tech Tuesday thing was just another way to kind of engage them. And we like, wow, might as well just throw it out there. And if we're doing something helpful for our volunteers, maybe somebody else can find it helpful too. So
yeah, we're going to do
awesome
something.
Training.
We're going to do something similar, and probably not as specific to just the Ross switcher, but we're going to do something like that in 2 weeks on a Thursday night. So the same thought, keeping the volunteers engaged, and just another way for us to connect with them. And
yeah. Like we did it last week. It was like meet the tech team. So we just all kind of introduced ourselves and asked some questions and stuff like that. So nothing gear based or anything. Next week we're doing like a front light workshop with our LD, just kind of talk through that stuff. So, but yeah. Are you guys opening up yours to anybody, or is it just internal?
I guess it could be open to anybody. Right now it's kind of, I think the thought was it'd be internal, but I mean, everything else we do is open to everybody else. So I don't know that it would necessarily be exclusive.
Yeah, I'd love to tune in and watch if that's possible.
Absolutely.
Matt can send me over a link if you guys want to keep it a little more closed, but that's what I love about it's, a silver lining of the current nonsense that we're in is it's just causing everybody to connect in a way they never have and more frequently and stuff. So it's been fun to kind of see how churches are interacting too.
If you guys didn't check it, even for our guys, for giving resources to people, I watched a bit with what they did on Tuesday, going over Ross and King and all that stuff. I learned a lot more about all that stuff just from Andy and them going through it. And Andy kind of took the perspective of being trained on it, and it was awesome. Honestly, it's one of the best resources I think I've ever seen for in general for that sort of thing. So I've been sending that to anyone who's asked about how do I key, or like, well, how do we get lyrics on our program feed and anything like that. It was awesome. I would for sure check it out.
I feel like I learned stuff too. It was a lot of fun to be a spectator.
For sure. All right, who else is out there? Where are you from? What do you do? Well, since there's a lot of us that are we'll kind of get into the Life.Church kind of service and support structure here in a second, but Joe, what are you guys kind of doing like that we could learn even from you guys? Like I know you've got like the Sunday room that you guys go and you kind of check everything out, but like what's your team structure? Like how's it run on a weekend? Like what's it all look like for you guys that we could kind of get from you right now?
Yeah. So the Sunday structure, I call it the situation room, and I like naming things, and I like the West Wing show, so it kind of merged together. So we the thing that we were running up against was, there's 4, 5, 6 people on our support team, but there were 1 or 2 people who got pretty much all of the texts and phone calls every single Sunday, and it was just bottlenecking things, and people were, every time they took a weekend off, they're getting inundated with contacts and whatnot. So we're like, we need a way to kind of triage the support from campuses, as well as wanting to kind of have more of a record of things so we can review it and all that kind of stuff. So we migrated over to, we had been using Slack for all of the communication on the weekend as it pertained to programming decisions and flow of the weekend and that kind of stuff. But what we implemented were this kind of like 911 language. And so we created a channel for the different like areas, 911 video, lighting, audio. Resolume for us is a big pain point from a ability standpoint with people. It just seems to be the thing that takes longer for people to really grasp. So it has its own channel. And then we have some more kind of general, like a general channel for things that don't happen as often and don't really need their own attention. And so what we did is we started filtering people through that, and anybody who reached out to us directly, we just kind of said, hey, as that happens, we're going to just push you back to the Slack channels, and you'll get a response if you text or call us. But the first thing we're going to say is just, hey, utilize that 911 channel. That'll be really helpful. And so then what happens is you've got 4 or 5 or 6 eyes on that, and it becomes kind of like a call center type situation where it's just like the next person up who's not doing anything, as well as who's more specialized in certain areas will be the ones to kind of respond to that. And so a message comes through in the channel, we instantly start a thread off of it. And then all dialogue happens in there. Any picture uploads, that kind of stuff. And then our tech team will be the ones to decide how to escalate the troubleshooting, if it needs to go to a phone call or a video chat, which we integrated Zoom through Slack. So if you're interacting with somebody on that thread, you can just start a direct message to them, hit /Zoom, hit enter, it sends them a meeting ID. They can click right there in the channel and then pop up a Zoom call on their phone, and we're instantly video chatting. We're trying to get away from, we don't mind people having phone numbers and whatnot, but we're trying to get away from that as a first point of interaction and access, just because people naturally kind of go to the easiest possible way to reach out and connect. And phone calls and text what they're doing. And so anytime we can cut that off initially, we can get them to use the Slack channels and whatnot. I mean, they're getting responses much more quickly. Our goal is to have, about 30 seconds be the maximum time before somebody responds to any kind of reach out in Slack. And then depending the severity of the issue as well as when it occurs, we didn't want to lock ourselves in too much the system. So if somebody sends a Slack message that is like a mission critical thing and it's 5 minutes before the worship experience starts, we're probably just going to pick up the phone and call them right away, or send them that Zoom link right away and just be like, we got to get this fixed as quickly as possible. Screw the formalities, screw the formats. Let's get you fixed as quickly as possible. And then the situation room side of that was just, a way for us to be together, and we do it in a room. We've got it's a conference room for our office. So there's 3 monitors and we use it for a Zoom room. And so we set up a stream from Valentine to our office that we can send the multi-viewer of all of the return feeds from campuses. So we can see every campus, and then we can isolate one and hear just a front of house feed from them. So and it's probably on a 30-second latency maybe. So we're short enough that we're able to kind of see if we're talking through them on a Zoom call or something, having them change things. If the light's not working, of something else, we can see what they're doing in a short enough time to make the troubleshooting process still efficient. And the room itself is centrally located. Our offices are kind of right in the middle of the city as far as the other campus locations. So that's where all of our spare gear and items are and things like that. So having 2 or 3 of us there every weekend, should something go wrong, we need to run something at the campus, we're as close to the gear as possible. We can just throw it in a car and drive. So, and again, we just, we like the idea of being together so that on the weekend, we're not all spread out by ourselves. We try to mix and match who's in the room based on, specialties and even the programming of the weekend and certain creative elements and that kind of stuff. If there's a very lighting heavy creative element that a lot of campuses are doing, we'll make sure our lighting director is in the room that weekend so he's more accessible. But we also try to mix and match with availability of guys to visit campuses on a frequent basis to kind of check in and get our eyes on gear in person, connect with the production director and volunteers there, put a face to the name in Slack so that it's not just, we wanted it to kind of have the system and the structure of the call center, but not the impersonal nature of that. So that's how we try to combat that. We try to, I get on my guys if their communication is a little too, if it gets overly technical and it's like you guys are talking to volunteers, you're kind of speaking over their head a little bit, or if it comes across just a little like making them feel stupid kind of thing. So I try to monitor that pretty closely, the kind of language we use in that situation. So as far as like team structure, so our whole tech department is kind of split up into 3 zones. You have AVL, which is all, I'll start with IT and tech, IT data, user support, all the staff computers, printers, that kind of stuff. You've got Valentine, which really is its own entity, the broadcast campus. And then you've got the other 19 campuses, which is our kind of AVL side. So I oversee that part. So I have a team of 4 guys right now that our job is just to support those campuses on the weekend. Zach Kimmery, who I'm sure some of you know, is our broadcast technical director, and he oversees everything Valentine. And that's 100% of his focus. He'll dabble in some of the other stuff on the weekend if he's got a free moment and he can see how he can help solve a problem, because he's one of the smartest guys I know. And so if he can be helpful, he tries to be, but he doesn't really do any kind of gear repair for other campuses or anything like that. He's 100% broadcast. So me and my guys handle support of the other campuses on the weekend, as well as any kind of gear repair, campus upgrades, things like that for all of them. If they have gear break, we want them sending that to us, or we set up RMAs for them so that they can be focused on volunteer development, investment, that kind of stuff. Production directors on the campus, kind of their first priority is production on the weekend, but very close to that is they're just another campus leader and another staff member at that site. So it's not uncommon for a production director to wear multiple hats, also oversee outreach in production or youth in production. If they do a campus event, they're responsible for any kind of production gear, that kind of stuff. So we try not to have them too bogged down with anything technically related as far as repair or upgrades or installs, so that we can keep them freed up to do that other stuff I mentioned. But yeah, our team really is focused on support. I mean, that's the first and pretty much the primary word I'd use to describe what our team's job is just supporting the campuses on the weekend and throughout the week through repairs, upgrades, and that kind of stuff.
How do you kind of split that up?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you split that up amongst, do you have designated campuses that are directed to certain people, or?
No, but it's all kind of one funnel. We've talked about some like regional support type of things. The most, we only have in any particular area or city, other than Charlotte, there's only 2 campuses. Once we get to like 3 or 4 in some city limits, we've been talking about what would that look like for tech support regionally, because we're trying to avoid, a campus in Florida having to mail us a piece of gear every time it breaks, that kind of stuff. So we're looking at what does it look like to potentially staff that region with somebody. But for now, we use a ticketing system through a Freshdesk platform. They just throw in a ticket. They describe their problem. It hits our funnel, and then we move it over to our project management platform that our creative team and everybody uses on our staff. And that's how we kind of do all of the process of communication back and forth as to when the problem occurred, getting pictures if we need it, setting up the RMA, sending them shipping information, getting all that kind of stuff. And then when it comes in, myself or our team's project manager will assign it to one of our technicians. And again, that's based on, pretty much all the lighting issues go to our lighting director, and any specific kind of switcher video issues go to our main guy who knows that area better than most. And then the rest of it just kind of gets filtered on a who's available kind of situation. If one person's got 5 open tickets and that person's got 1, probably just filter the 1 to that one to kind of keep it balanced and stuff. But through that system, like we'll always make sure that there's a resolution before the following weekend, unless they submit a ticket on like Saturday night and they said, "Oh, I forgot last weekend his mic failed." I'm like, you got to spare or cut a vocalist, or you got to figure something out. Nothing we can do at this point. So
how much would you say, like, so you guys fix the equipment, things like that, like how much weight would you say from the technical side that your production directors at each campus kind of wear? Is it
Definitely not.
Really think your question was kind of
Hello.
Well, hi there.
I do. Lindsay, I'm sorry.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Sure.
I got it. Okay.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm being attacked by a dog right
Definitely
now.
not sleeping. Come on. She is crawling all
My
over
sister got a new
my-
puppy today, so.
She's biting the phone right now. She's crawling all over me.
Hi, Cassandra. There you go.
There we
Cassie,
go.
you gotta mute yourself.
She's tickling me with her whiskers.
Cassie, these are leaders from all around the world.
Sorry.
No worries. Oh man, that's funny. So Joe, how much of that weight does like your production directors on at the campus? How much weight do they carry if like it's fixing gear or something like that? Like, so you're not sending a guy to Florida or whatever, like are your production directors kind of like tech directors at the campus, or like how's that?
So there's a little bit of a different approach to it depending on who you're talking to, because our production directors report to their local campus pastor and they're assigned to that campus only, so they don't jump around. And ultimately the campus pastor is the person who makes the final decision on who they hire. So they can hire on basically whatever criteria they want. Now we work together, us, our central production director, Andy, and the campus pastor and our staffing team to really find somebody who's a great fit who can do the leadership thing and the tech thing. But as I'm sure you guys know, you either have somebody who's really tech savvy or who's a really great relational leader. But our hope is there's an aptitude on the one that's maybe is the lesser of the experience side. Ultimately, like we as a tech team want to be fixing things that break. That's kind of where we want to be on drawing the line. We don't want to have to be resolving issues on the weekend that are because somebody plugged something in wrong, or the projector's on the wrong input, or they went SDI in when they need to be SDI out and they can't figure that out, kind of stuff. Like, so we have an onboarding program for new hires for production directors to walk through all of the things that we use program wise, software wise, and then just general, kind of training and development in, cable types and loads and, proper ways to crank up a center lift and with a PA on it and all that kind of stuff, like how to focus a projector, things like that. We're definitely not there at all. There are, we pretty consistently get reached out to on the weekend because something is not set up correctly and they just can't figure it out. Now, we don't have a staff member at every campus. There's 4 openings, I think. So there's volunteers running that. So we expect that. We know that they're going to reach out. But our goal is that a production director would be a master of their campus and be able to do start to finish with everything working properly without ever needing anybody's assistance. Outside of that gear fails kind of situation. Right. As it comes to any kind of midweek repair kind of stuff, like we're even in the last probably 6 months, we've just started moving over to trying to better resource them in their area. So I've, in the last year or so, went to Florida, I went to Raleigh, I went to Roanoke, South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, and I just went and met with local production houses, and I just said, hey, we have a couple campuses in your area. Our central offices are in Charlotte. We would love to be able to have you guys as a resource should our local campus need something. Most of the needs is going to be like rental type situations where if they have a projector fail, they can just rent one for a week and then we can service the other 1 or 2 weeks. We don't want them probably using them for a lot of repair stuff or purchasing anything from them, but having some relationships in places in different communities. So if we needed something, we can just call them real quick on a Saturday, try to build the relationship, get friendly with them and everything, so that there's a personal aspect there that we could call them on a Saturday and say, hey, our campus, we need a new projector. Do you have anything for the weekend? And that kind of thing, versus us driving 3-4 hours or overnighting something if possible. Then we're also kind of investing in the community a little bit too.
Hey, do you guys have any restrictions as far as like volunteers being on lifts or being able to utilize volunteers in any sort of capacity to, service and support the equipment or, anything in the air?
So we don't have any kind of formal process or rules. A couple of our permanent campuses have, scissor lifts or something that a volunteer they use if they know how. We've asked the production directors to be pretty thorough with making sure somebody has experience and knows what they're doing and try to validate that. It's kind of as the person arrives, we kind of see what they're capable of. Like one of our Raleigh campuses, a previous volunteer, he actually worked for a production company. So he's real savvy with cable termination and that kind of stuff. So he basically he repaired all of their SDI if an end broke off or something. So they would just let us know. We'd send them a box of ends every couple months or 6 months or something like that. And he just repaired them. He soldered XLR, that kind of stuff. So if there are situations like that where there's a volunteer who knows how to do that kind of stuff, we'd love to utilize it. But we don't have an official system for like training people to do that. It's probably a direction we need to go, honestly, where we give people that opportunity to learn.
Yeah, it's been a conversation we've been having, just how loose do we go on restrictions, as far as risk management and those types of things, so that, because we operate with a pretty small team too. I think for the most part, we're working with 5, maybe 6 people that are doing campus service and support across, 34, 35, up to, soon up to 40 campuses. We know that we've got to be able to deepen our bench and utilize the teams that are there, since we don't have production managers or anything at every campus. So that's something we're we're trying to work through right now internally on our side, is the risk management side of that. How much do we allow? Do we soften our stance on where we've been to where we've been extremely risk averse to maybe swinging the pendulum back the other direction?
Have you guys put anything in place so far, or is it kind of still in an evaluative mode?
No, right now we're still in the seat of a volunteer can be on a lift with a worship pastor or somebody that's on staff, but they can't be the sole operator. Mm-hmm. Where it gets a little bit gray is when we have guys that are, certified, maybe in their job, they're an electrician or they're a contractor with us during the week, but they may be, a volunteer on the weekend. How do you navigate the gray of that scenario?
Right.
Because there are situations where if there's a guy that's an electrical contractor, or he's an electrical engineer by trade or by profession, and there's something that we can utilize them and their skill sets to do that's on a volunteer side, that's going to save us either the financial piece or just provide another opportunity to serve. How many opportunities do we have like that throughout the overall organization, that we can have those high potential, high capacity volunteers at campuses that we identify, and we say, okay, you can do these types of things. The navigation then becomes with the other volunteers that are around to go, well, when there are questions, why can't I be on a lift, or you find another volunteer on a lift and go, you're not certified for that. So those are the conversations we're having right now. And it's, I mean, it goes all the way to, when I say to the top, it goes to the executive leadership. Right now we're just still operating under the premise of, you can be on a lift with a staff person, but you can't be the sole operator. We'd like to swing that the other direction.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably something that we should do is put in at least a little bit of that organization and structure, because right now we don't have that. We probably think we do, or we probably would recommend it if you asked us, but there's nothing official that's ever been rolled out that says, hey, unless you're with a staff member, no sole operation. So I'm going to make a note of that, because that's probably something we need to bring up.
Well, thanks so much, man. Thanks for kind of filling us in on what you guys do. And Greg kind of explaining some things, how we're working through stuff. If you don't know who Greg is, Greg leads the Life.Church tech team. He's over all of us. He's been in for 10 years, and that anniversary was this last week, I believe. So Greg, like Elevation, they have their support team, the AVL team, and they have production directors on the campus as kind of a touch point. We don't have that. We've got our team, and the worship pastors, if you don't know, are the ones that kind of lead the tech teams on the central or on the campus level. I know there are churches on here right now that also don't have like tech directors or production directors in multiple campuses, or they are the sole production director, only working with volunteers over multiple campuses. Greg, can you talk into, or one of the guys kind of talk into how you came to building like this tech team with few amount of guys, with a church that was growing at a fast pace, not going in that direction of like hiring production directors or tech directors, and how to kind of manage that, or what it looks like for us right now, all that stuff?
I'm not good. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, when I came on the team 10 years ago, really, we did everything in-house. At that point, we all integration, everything was done by our team. So if we were launching a campus, that meant the whole team would have to go at that point to go do an install, which pulled away from the ability to support campuses. So when I came on the team, since we were in that mode of operation, I think we had like 75 or 80 tickets in our help desk. And what we noticed is that when we went to invest that much energy into one campus to launch it, the other campuses felt the pain of neglect or whatever of that, because our attention wasn't there. And at that time, we were only, I think, 10 or 12 campuses. We made the decision at that point to bring in an integrator to be able to take on that load of integration, and one, because it allowed us to move faster, but two, it allowed us to really focus on the backbone of the organization, which was the campuses. And so, one of the things that we did early on was we had a team. It was really, we had guys that were sat more in specialist seats. Like I think we had a couple of guys that were more video centric. A couple of guys that were probably audio. We had one guy that's still on the team that's kind of the MacGyver of the team. That was, if there was anything that was rigging or mechanical in nature, he was kind of the resident expert of that. So it was more of a I would say we had more specialists at that point, which we continued on. But as we've grown, the team has really morphed more into a team of generalists. I think everybody's kind of got their primary area of focus or expertise. That's I think for a while we were pretty audio heavy, and we really only had Matthew that was our video guy that was there. And I would say that we're still probably sit a little heavier on the audio piece, but everybody's picked up the learnings on these other areas. So Caleb kind of is our lighting guy, and if we've got a thing that's lighting specific or whatever, usually we're blowing him up with those phone calls. But really, as we grew, we knew that we needed to kind of continue, and where everybody was more of a generalist. And honestly, we don't design our systems that they require a a team of professionals to operate. We try to do it so that it's pretty easy on the volunteer to operate. I mean, ideally, if we could have our, like our kids come in and run it, that would be perfect, but we're not requiring a high level of technical aptitude to be able to run it at its base level. So when it comes to supporting the campuses and the team structure, we want to be able to make it where if something breaks, we can ship them a piece of equipment and allow a volunteer or a worship pastor or, really anybody on the team to swap it out with. We've done that a couple of times recently. Like the guys had to go out to our campus in Rio Rancho, New Mexico and swap a bunch of drivers. And we got a few of the drivers in, but the rest weren't coming for a few days. So what they did was they shot a video of how to do it, left it with the worship pastor, and the worship pastor was able to swap those drivers out, test them, and then take care of that piece for us. So we weren't having to stay behind and wait on product to arrive. We've done that with amps. We've done that with projectors. Lights are pretty easy to swap. And so a lot of things we've done to be scalable like that, we've created videos, screen steps, documentation, things like that, so that the knowledge is transferred. And we put all that into, I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but tech.life.church is kind of our mind dump of all the information that we have of how to support our systems, so that really at any point in time, you've got the knowledge right here in your hand. You just type it up. And if it's something that we've had to deal with, it's funny though, because I think Ryan, you've probably gotten some calls like this, Wager, on our team, where somebody called in on the phone number, but it wasn't somebody from our church. It was somebody that said, "Hey, I'm dealing with this," and they just happened to stumble across our website on how to fix it. So, it's just a resource that we've provided for churches, but really the thought behind it was, how do we get the knowledge out of our heads and down and out to people so that we're not having to shoulder all of the work. We just got to make sure it gets done. We may not be the ones who do it.
Just to keep going on that real quick, Joe did ask, Joe, can you voice to Greg, because he's kind of on that topic right now?
Yeah. When you mentioned, being heavy on audio and more generalist and that kind of stuff, that's kind of where we are, where we've got a couple open positions we're trying to staff, but essentially we've got one person who knows our lighting system really, really well, and he implements it in new campuses and does programming, but he's kind of like our only guy who's really, really MA savvy, who focuses on support. Where have you kind of focused on helping your guys get more, apt at all the different areas? And then kind of what parameters have you set as far as like how much they need to know how to do certain things, or how many people are specialists per area? Like, do you have any kind of structure to say, like, we need to have 2 or 3 really, really strong video guys who can all do the same level of troubleshooting and support?
I don't know that there's been a real intentionality to how it's happened, to how we've landed where we are. I just think we've got a team of learners, and everybody kind of jumps in and figures things out. And if it's, somebody that's more of a video specialist that can streamline things and make it easier, then they share that knowledge. On an audio side, there's a lot of conversations that take place in the office about how to do things, and they go all the way from the uber technical side to, the other extreme as well. So, but all of that with the thought of how can we put it, how can we make it as simple as possible, so that the knowledge can then be translated. So, I'm sitting here looking at our team, and there's really like 4 audio guys on here, and I mean, I've got 16 pips on my screen, and I see 4 of our team that's more probably audio centric, 1 lighting guy, and I can't tell who else is on here from our team to even know where it is. But if we look at the overall breakdown of our team, we probably only have 2 guys that are probably video heavy, and probably 6 guys that are more audio, 1 guy that's lighting. Is that about right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, we all paddle in different areas, but as far as like where we hone in and where a lot of us got our start is audio, and then there's Caleb, our Lampy.
I mean, I'm a video guy now. I've hung out with Ron for a week. Like, I'm definitely a video guy now. But
well,
hey,
I mean, but you look at Warren. Warren was heavy audio coming in and has lived in that world forever, and is now leading the broadcast support side. Has had to learn video, and a lot of that's just because there was an opportunity and he stepped into it to lead it. I mean, there was a little bit of knowledge on the front end, but the bigness of the broadcast video piece, none of us had that expertise in. I mean, Ron, you can attest to that. You sat with us for a couple of weeks trying to get it all figured out. But that's what these conversations are about. That's why we have this network of people that we talk to on a regular basis. Because I mean, there's times I know, like, I'll ping Zach with a question, or it'll go back and forth on Slack, or bring in Justin Fire Sheets from Church of the Highlands, and there's video. Like, we were having a conversation 2 days ago about how we're doing, or yesterday about how we're doing some stuff. And so, but it's just about the network of relationships, because we don't claim to know it all. And that there's a lot of other people who know a lot more than we do, and we want to learn from each other and from the investments and the mistakes that each of us have made, and so we don't, hopefully go down that path twice.
So, like, as one of our newer members of our team on the tech side of things, I feel like our team is very much always wanting to push each other to learn more. So, like, I know in our office, I sit right next to Caleb when we are in the office, very rarely, but if he's ever working on anything lighting, I'm not the lighting guy, I'm more of audio. So he's always working on something. He'll say, hey, check this out, I just figured this out, this is really cool. And that 5-minute thing he showed me just sticks, and keep going back to that. We always find ways to learn from each other, so keep it more interesting than just sitting down reading books and doing videos, things like that, learning from people.
And I'll add one thing to that too. If we don't know something, we don't just kick it over to the other person. We have the other person teach us, so we're always cross-training. So that way, when we encounter the issue again, we're prepared to handle it ourselves, or maybe it just speeds up that troubleshooting time the next time. But just trying to share the knowledge of what we're running up against every time we can helps us with speed and flexibility in the future when one of us may be out of the office.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that. I want to hit a couple questions that did come in. I don't think our resident Panda expert is still on, but someone asked about, let's see, Mr. Ashton asked about utilizing Asset Panda, or how we manage our gear and track it. Can someone give like a 5-minute, this is what we do, this is why, anything like that? Sure. On gear, how we track it, those sort of things?
I'll go on that. So I'm on the support side of things. So anytime we get a ticket come in, that's like, say, just most general thing, hey, we have a house light that stopped working. We'll make sure that the campus gets a house light that's working. We'll get the serial number of it. We'll look in our asset tracking, which is Asset Panda, and we'll find that light. It'll show where that or what campus that's at, what room it's in, how much we paid for it, who we bought it from, what date we bought it, all of that stuff. We have actions in there that say, hey, let's send this in for repair. We'll take it out of the campus, put it in this bin that says, hey, we need this repaired. So when we run reports, we can say how many items that we have in our inventory that need repairs, or how many items that are out for repair. Or if I want to say how many total items do we have at our Fort Smith location, I can print off those reports. So very, very good for tracking things like that. Also, when it comes in from repair, you can set it for, hey, let's do an internal QC to plug it in, make sure it works. So we don't throw it on our shelf and then take it to a campus and all of a sudden it never worked and we never checked it. So just things like that. Asset Panda is very, very good with. I know we did an Asset Panda webinar a couple weeks ago, very quick, fast-paced overview, but they were using it for more or less actions instead of like needing repair for equipment. It was like, hey, so-and-so needs to call this person to figure out this task or things like that. So it's not necessarily just gear related, but it can be very, very beneficial for tracking gear, locations, anything like that.
Just to
that's
feedback on
basically what we use it for.
Brian, is like Asset Panda is huge. We use it very simply. We track stuff and we repair stuff with it. That's really it. But it provides us an avenue to hold everything in one spot. And then when we hit repair, all the actions that follow, it sends an email out to our integrator who helps us to get the repair set up with manufacturer, actually moves it into places for us. So we use it for automation as well, to keep our lives doable and just kind of keep up with things as they pile up.
Is that available, or I mean, we can probably do it offline too, because we use Asset Panda, but we're still on the front end of it. It's strictly asset management, just to know what we have and to know where it is and to get those details of serial number and purchase date. But the way that you guys are using it is, I'd love to continue to explore how we can potentially utilize that too. So
yeah, and it is available to my knowledge. I wasn't really involved with getting us like set up in Asset Panda, so I don't know if there's any price point that goes on with adding actions, but to my knowledge there's not. I believe it's built into the software and it's all built in actions, and man, those things are like powerhouses. So I mean, I don't want to go too far into it right now because it would take 20 minutes and everything else, but if you would like to connect about it kind of offline, we can. I would love to help you get that portion set up and kind of help automate that.
Yeah, I'd love to see the way you guys use it. I think it'd be awesome.
I'll make that connection after this call. I'll send you guys an email. I do also want to hit Ron. You had a question kind of about building teams and such. What's your? Do you want me just to read it, or can you kind of voice what your question are, or is your thought in kind of building the teams and whatnot?
Yeah, sure. So I have, there are 4 people on here plus me from my church. We've recently just gone through kind of a major video migration, going to Living as One, going to Church Online. And so all of these guys everybody has different roles that they're actually getting a paycheck for. But we've kind of thrown them into taking care of broadcast video now. And so as they're building teams, what advice would you guys have for building teams? Because I know you guys were all in positions where we were at one time, and what did you do to help build those teams?
So from my point of view, I've been able to lead some different teams, and I know a lot of these guys have been able to lead different teams and build teams. I think the biggest thing, especially being, when you have multiple campuses, you have a lot of people underneath you, is the whole thing of replacing yourself is actually the best thing you can probably do. Find that person who is just passionate. There are guys on here I've been able to work with who were just passionate about what they got to do and be a part of, and they owned that role so well. That's the biggest thing I think for any tech. Like I know a lot of us in tech, we want to hold on to what we do because we can find our significance in that, right? I would say I'm that person who's the generalist. I'm not like the expert on any of the things, and I hope it's kind of answering the question to a sense, because I think building the teams is more to do with the person than their technical ability. Because I think a great leader can find the right people and make the teams operate, right? Like there are some guys who love, name it, lighting, video, audio. I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy who comes in and is like, I'm going to knock out lighting for you. And I got jobs not offered to me because I was just straight, like, I'm not the lighting guy, but I'll find somebody who is, Some people like that, some people don't like that. I really just, if you can invest in people, the more that you can invest in people, and the quicker you can invest in people, the quicker you can replace yourself. You actually show more of your value and how you can pour into other people than how well you can punch a button or cut a program, right? Like if you take your ownership and I'm the best like switcher that's out there, that's awesome. Like be a switcher, be a director, you know. But that's what you're going to be. But to be a leader, find what you're good at and that passion, and then insert it and give it to other people so they can grow and flourish in it. And you can replace yourself. And if you walk out tomorrow, it doesn't matter. The operation still stands, because it's about the operation. It's about the ministry specifically, like we're talking about, over how good you can cut or how good of a mix you have or anything else like that. So I know it's not very specific to like video or living as one or anything like that. I just really think the more that you can utilize people and give them a place to see how their impact can result in lives changed. People will walk through fire with you. They will stay up till all times of the day or night with you. They'll do anything it takes to get it done, as long as they know that they're cared for, and that you're in it with them, you know. So I don't know if that answers the question really. I just really always go to invest in the person, invest in the people who are willing to walk in it with you, over like I need to find the right person. And there's a level of that, right? Like some people just aren't great at doing tech stuff, and that could be any of it. And it's like, well, let's find where you really grow, because I want you to, you know, come in and however you serve, that's your act of worship, you know, like right now. And I know a lot of us have talked about it on this team in particular. If you come onto the Life.Church tech team as an audio guy, you're not going to be happy. If you come on as a lighting guy or anything, you're not going to be happy, because you're not behind a console. You're not behind a switcher. You're not doing that stuff. You're really just helping make sure that it works and pouring into people. And every once in a while, we all get to sit behind the console. We all get to be on stage sometimes and play guitar or do whatever, but that's not a part of the job. It's not what we do. And I think it's just a growth thing of what happens when I don't need to be on stage playing guitar or leading worship or behind a console as like my act of worship, or like feeling like I'm engaged with what God's doing in the room. Now it's really seeing other people. If I can stand in the back of the room and watch something take place that I've been part of, that's where I really feel like I've done what God's called me to do and what I'm connected at doing. So that's kind of what it's kind of my go-to answer for all that stuff. And I really believe it. Anyone else though?
Yeah, I like to throw in there too. I mean, anytime I'm building a team, I'm looking for areas that can either complement or fulfill maybe a deficiency that I have in my leadership, or a skill set that I don't have, you know. So I look back to sometimes when, like, I mean, this has been 15 years ago maybe, but I was leading a team and had a team of guys who were ready to go in and do whatever. Now I know myself that I'm not the most empathetic person. I'm not the most, you guys can attest to that work with me. But and my wife's sitting here nodding her head as well. But you know, what I had to realize is that from a pastoral side, there were things that there was a barrier probably between me and my team of them feeling like they could be transparent and real with me in those times that, but they would be that way with somebody else. And I had a lady that was one of my volunteers, and she led a customer service division for TXU, which is the largest electric company in Texas. And she had a way of being very empathetic and just another level of just nurturing with the volunteer team. And there was a level that they could be transparent with her that they wouldn't be with me, just because of the role that I was in, of leading that team and being the pastoral side. And so utilizing her in that side of almost being the intermediary between me and the volunteers, and having her do a checkup with them was almost a well check. It wasn't just hey, here's everything that needs to be done. It was more about, hey, what's going on in your life, and she could find out things I would never find out. And so it really was that was a significant tool that I had in my toolbox that with her, that because I knew there was a self-awareness side there that I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do that just with my nature of how I am, who I am, whatever. But anyway, I think that's part of it too, is just knowing what areas are you strong in, what areas do you need to bring in. Another thing, I look at the way I lead our team when we do our Myers-Briggs, personality inventory or whatever. I'm an ESTJ, and I'm a hardcore ESTJ, which means that I'm very black and white, very the structure side almost is inflexible. But I knew that there were some things from that I needed feelers around me who were going to be able to use the feeling side of that I don't naturally have. And so guys like Ross, bringing him on. Now, what we've learned about Ross is that his feeler is driven by one thing, but it puts him in tune. Ross, do you want to share what that is?
Well, now that I've been brought in front of the class. No, so on Myers-Briggs step 2, technically I tested as an ISTJ. However, the one thing that puts me over on the feeler side is tenderness, which I absolutely hate, because I'm like, I swear to you, I'm not super tender. At least just the word tender, just, I don't know, whatever. But no, it is weird being kind of like the feeler on the feeler side. But I think it gives me the opportunity to put myself in his shoes, project or whatever, being able to say, wait, let's tap the brakes for a second. Like, how does this decision impact either the weekend experience or how impact that person? So I mean, I used to hate it being the feeler, but I've kind of grown to appreciate it a little bit, even if I don't find myself being as tender as the test results say. But yeah.
Well, Ron, I also do enjoy like the team building structure and stuff, like the heart behind it and everything is there. I think that's the most important thing. But if you guys do want to connect on like that structure and what that actually looks like, I actually really do enjoy kind of looking at that and seeing what you guys have. So if you do want to connect on that, we can do that like separately and kind of go over, this is what your team looks like right now. This is how I want it to grow, or how I want to see it grow, or maybe what a healthy growth would look like. So if you guys want to do that, definitely reach out. And I have the time, so I'd love to connect with you guys and the team and see how we can help, build and actually grow the structure. But is there anyone else out on here right now that you have any questions or you want us to hit about real quick? Anybody? Greg, any last thoughts?
I mean, I got a question, kind of specific.
Yeah. Yes, Joseph.
Oh, it was about the Life.Church site. How often do you guys push new content to that, or update old content with new gear that you're using, or what's kind of your method? Is there like, we want to upload a certain number of videos per month, or how do you just keep that site going? Like, I love that thing, and I look at it constantly to try to steal every idea possible. And we're trying to come up with more resources like that help our teams and help our people. So,
Ryan, you want to run with that?
Ryan?
I mean,
yes. Yeah. So Matthew, who was on here earlier, really brought me into kind of owning tech.life.church articles. We shoot videos and everything else. What drives how often new content is pushed on there is if we notice something isn't there that needs to be there. So like if I get a phone call on the weekend and it's our TV in the office doesn't have any audio, and it could be as simple as, oh yeah, go reboot the video rack and that'll kind of resync the de-embed, everything will be fine. even though it's a 5-minute conversation, write it down, and then we apply that to tech.life.church during the week. Recently, we implemented, which kind of right now it's kind of out the door, but we implemented a focus time for our whole organization, Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So that's kind of been my time to jump into tech.life.church. Brian and Caleb are both hopping on there right now because we all have a little bit of time to do it. So right now we're pushing things, new content, updating content, but what it really boils down to is when do we have the time, or when have we made the time now, and what needs to be on there that's not already there. Is it's never going to be finished. We're never going to have it fully like updated. We're always going to be getting calls that things are not, and not somebody calling saying, hey, this isn't on tech.life.church, but they're calling saying, hey, we looked on tech.life.church. We didn't see it. Can you help us out? And that's like one of my favorite phone calls to get, because number one, they're utilizing tech.life.church. Number two, I get to make a new article or video. Somebody does. And I find
they tried that before calling.
Right. They're using it properly. They're using it for the purposes intended. But if I ever get a phone call that takes me more than a couple of seconds, I write down the topic. And then, like Greg said earlier, the idea is to get it out of our head and on the web. So if I can get it out of my head and on the web, that means somebody can just research that and say, oh yeah, I just need to reboot the video switcher. But I'm kind of going on a rabbit trail. But as far as new content, whenever it's needed, and about once a month, I have a calendar reminder. It's actually every 30 days, which is stupid because it's never on the same day every month. But it pops up in my calendar that I just go through and just kind of look at the backside of it and see if there's anything that's really old or like really just not applicable to what we're doing right now. And I just unpublish it from the web. So I just take it out. Now we're going through and actually cleaning it up and deleting things that don't need to be deleted from old gear that we've had or old processes that we've used. But as processes change, as gear gets updated, we look at it. But for the most part, whenever it shows up that we're missing something, we hop on it and we just jump at it.
One of the things too that we look for is if we're seeing a common trend of the same issue over and over and over again, rather than spending 10 minutes on the phone 3 times a weekend for 2 months in a row, like, can we just text them this link and they can self-troubleshoot something that should take 5 to 10 minutes, but they can own the whole process rather than us having to talk them through every step every time.
Yeah, they learn through that too. Like a lot of times it'll be, I'll get a phone call and I hate saying it because I am also a feeler like Ross. So I just want to help. Like, yes, I'll spend the time with you right here on the phone. Like, we're going to make this thing work together. But I stop and like, okay, can you run through this article for me? And please call me if you have any questions, if anything doesn't make sense, if you get through it and it doesn't work. And that helps us go back and update things too, because they'll call halfway through and say, hey, I'm almost done, but this weird thing happened when I hit OK. The next menu that you said was going to just pop up, it never popped up. It's like, oh, simple fix. Now we can go look at the article and update it. Number one, they're bought into helping us. Number two, they're learning about it. Number three, everything's getting better. So that's been a huge, like, it sucks right up front. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I want to help you, at least for my personality type. I really want to help you all the way through. But I have to remember that I am actually helping them all the way through, just not direct contact until they get stuck.
Do you guys favor like a document versus a video versus screen capture? Is it specific to gear? Like, obviously the editability of a document is much greater than reshooting a video, but what do you do with that?
As far as editability or like flexibility goes, articles or documents are definitely more flexible, like you said. And honestly, a lot of people tend to like reading the articles, at least from the feedback that I've received. A lot of people like reading the articles because they can jump to what they need. And they don't have to search through or scrub or look for a timestamp or anything. they just jump to it. It's quick, efficient. Now with videos, you get a little bit more of like human, and it makes it seem more doable. I don't know how, like it at least to me, to some people that I've talked to, like watching somebody else do it makes me feel better about doing it myself. So if I watch a video of somebody running through it, I feel better about doing it myself. But a lot of times we're running really fast and really quick, and so people just jump to the article. So
I kind of look at it. I look at it from the side of how many times have I had to fix my washer and dryer, where I've gone online and I've found a schematic of how it's all built and all that. But to me, it looks like an IKEA drawing, like I'm having to assemble furniture. But then I can go to YouTube and look for the same thing, and it's got the video that shows the guy walking through how to do it. I mean, you're just going to hit all aspects of learning types, when you create the documentation in multiple forms.
Sometimes it's yes and, like it's video and
it depends on the person
documentation.
reading it. Some people will read better than they're gonna, or understand better watching the video. Some people are gonna understand when they're.
So do you guys do both? Will you always
it,
have a document attached to a video kind of situation?
Yeah, the goal originally was a document and a video for everything.
Awesome.
But to be honest, like that's it. On a video doesn't work for everything. An article doesn't work for anything. Sometimes when we have a really tight timeline, like there was maybe a year ago, there was the Life Kids team decided, or Next Gen Youth decided that we needed to change something in one of the kids' rooms like that day, and we needed to have a resource for 35 people to do it in like 4 hours. I can't write an article that fast. I don't know anybody who could that would write it well. But if you put a camera in front of somebody and they talk about it and show you how to do it, you can do that in 4 hours. So for that example, we shot a video. We did not write an article. But for a lot of things, it's yes and, referring to Caleb there, because people learn differently, and people look at things differently. But if the article is not simple, it goes out the door. Like Greg with your washer, like if you're looking at an IKEA drawing, scratching your head for an hour, you want to look at the YouTube video because it's simple. So over all that, like simplicity, whether it's a video or an article, just as a tag point, like simple, 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 and both of them will work in either situation.
Yeah, and the videos aren't always like, really polished. We've got a few of them on there that we started on the early on stuff. We tried to make it, really polished stuff. But I mean, anymore, you can see what's on YouTube. It's somebody with their iPhone that's, got their head under the hood of their Jeep trying to fix it, and you're trying to figure out what are they doing. It's down and dirty, and really that's what we're trying to do the same, is just quick access. Here's what it is. Pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
And then something else to note, I don't know if we've touched on this, just for some more context onto all the articles or videos. So at all of our campuses, we standardize all of our equipment. So Ryan made the comment of, okay, I have to make a single video, 35 people need to make this change. So in every kid's room, they have the exact same lighting setup, down to the fixture, down to the console. Same thing in our auditoriums, bigger scale. We have as-built drawings from all of our integrators, but I mean, we're literally putting the same piece of gear in the same piece, or same spot, same rack. So if people are like, well, that's a lot of articles, a lot of campuses. We're really having to build support articles for one system design that's duplicated, 30 some odd times over. So that's, from a support side, that's been huge as well, to keep things more simple and to the point.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you for that.
Well, I definitely have a question for Zach Kimmery, what we've all been wanting to know. If you can hear me, Zach, we all kind of want to know how long and at what precise temperature should you smoke a pork butt at? And
A pork butt should go at 225 until it hits 165 internal. Don't open the Traeger or the smoker or whatever you're using until it gets to 165. And when it gets to 165, you put it in a pan with either soda or beer, if that's your choice, and you cover it up and you seal it tight and you smoke it until it gets about 203 internal, and then you pull it off and you let it sit in a cooler for about an hour, and then you shred it and it should fall apart.
it sounds amazing.
This
Now-
guy has the right answer.
I'm sorry.
Follow
What,
up.
the third temperature that you're going for? We have
203.
225 with 203. You said.
So you want to I set the Traeger at 225.
Okay.
And then when the pork butt is 165 internal,
Yeah.
I wrap it in a pan. And then when it gets to 203, it should be good. And you pull it and let it rest for about an hour, and it'll soak up a lot of juices back inside it. Don't ever slice it immediately.
Wonderful.
That's great.
I love
That's
this.
great. Now, is the
Sorry, I
Traeger
couldn't
overrated,
today.
or do you have to spend the money on a Traeger?
I mean, I don't know. Some people, like a lot of other people, have like Camp Chef and all that and love it. Charlie Pike has Camp Chef and swears by it. I just got lucky and got hooked and got a Traeger. So
I'll tell you, our team went over to his house 3 Sundays ago, and I've never had brisket even close to as good as that I had there. It
That
was
brisket-
unbelievable.
I don't remember how many pounds it was, but that brisket smoked for 15 hours. And yeah, it turned out good that day.
Well,
Well, I
we'll
just
take
put up
that for what it's
chat.
worth, fellas.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I tried to type it all out and put it in the chat because I'm going to use that. Thanks for poking that, Matt, and thanks for
And
answering
now
that.
I'm starving. Thanks, Zach. Actually, thank you, Matt, for your lead there.
You're welcome. Listen. I feel like I could be the voice of the people. Following Zach Kimmery's Instagram, the lights are cool, video's cool, but that Traeger action, you know what I mean? It's good stuff.
Yeah, when
That's
we started going on lockdown in Charlotte, literally went out and bought 40 pounds worth of pellets. And I was like, got plenty of meat in the fridge and then in the freezer. So got to have pellets to go with it.
That's awesome, man. That's cool. Well, thank you guys for joining. Greg, do you have anything else?
No, man, this is great. I love the conversation. We're trying to do this a little more regularly. I think we got another one scheduled for next Thursday. But with our team being spread out everywhere, anytime we can get an opportunity to sit and just talk shop, especially learn from other people and guys who are doing it, better than we are, then definitely want to take advantage of those opportunities. So appreciate Joe and Zach for jumping on, and Ron, it's good seeing you. Got to get you come back down as we look to expand the Furio stuff once this gets once this lockdown is lifted. Absolutely.
Oh, Ron, you're
Yes.
never gonna believe it. You remember your story about someone taking a robot off a track?
Yeah.
It may or may not have almost happened.
Which one?
The longest camera 2.
Camera 2? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun moment. That was a fun
That
moment.
sucker
All's
went
well.
50.
Someone hit the wrong button and almost. Yep. So, fun times.
It won't be the last either.
Oh man. Well,
And
yeah.
man,
Thank you guys.
That, I think you call those BPMs.
That's a BPM. If you, it's not a musical reference. It's a butt pucker moment. Butt pucker. Yes. Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much, man. This was awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Joe, for hopping on.
Man,
And Zach.
thank you. Yeah, thanks for the inclusion. This has been fun. I hope to continue. I'd love to keep hanging out with you guys and learning from you. So you say you
For
don't know
sure.
everything, but you're definitely up there as one of the best. So really excited to keep doing this.
Well, maybe I can convince Zach Kimmery to jump on next week.
I put that calendar event on, actually did it this time, so I shouldn't forget next week.
My man. Well, we're going to pick your brain.
opened Instagram and saw it, and I was like, crap, forgot.
Well, we're gonna pick your brain next week. We're gonna talk about broadcast stuff, man. So I know you're a normal name we talk about and how are you doing things. So we might for sure pick your brain next week if you're on. But
Awesome. Just text me and remind me, but hopefully the calendar will help.
I will. All right, Greg, you want to take it out, man?
All right, man. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining today. You have a good weekend. Great Easter.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Thanks, guys. See you.
See ya.